Greetings, Lore Masters. Tonight our chronicle covers a path walked by many, yet mastered by few, the silent, shadowy art of the ultimate hunter. We are returning to the cold, biting winds of the north, to a land where dragons return to eat the world, and where the knee is the most vulnerable part of the human anatomy. Whether you are a veteran who can navigate Blackreach with your eyes closed, or a fresh soul just waking up in a cart near the border, there is a certain comfort in the silence of the sneak. The pine forests of Skyrim are beautiful, sure, but they are also teeming with things that want to turn your insides into outsides. Let's be honest, you probably wouldn't survive a trip to Cold Harbour without some serious enchanted gear, or at least a very fast sprint speed. But tonight, we aren't sprinting, we are crouching, we are waiting, we are becoming the shadow that breathes. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of reality. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The screen fades from black, and the sound of a rattling carriage wheel against cobblestone fills your ears. It is the beginning of everything. The mist hangs low over the path to Helgen, obscuring the towering peaks that will soon become your hunting grounds. You are cold, your hands are bound, and a rough-voiced Nord is talking about crossing the border. But as the carriage trundles toward its destiny, your mind isn't on the politics of the Stormcloaks or the Imperials. Your mind is on who you are about to become. When Hadvar looks at you, clipboard in hand, asking, "Who are you?" he isn't just asking for a name, he's asking for your fate. For the aspiring stealth archer, the single most efficient, lethal and mathematically superior build in the history of Tamriel, this choice is the foundation of the entire saga. You can, technically, pick up a bow as an orc or a high elf, but to truly embrace the archetype, to optimize the blood in your veins for silence and ballistics, you have to look at the lineage of the natural hunters. We begin with the Bosmer, the wood elves of Valenwood. If you are looking for the absolute purest start, this is where the ink on the character sheet usually lands. From the moment a Bosmer draws their first breath, the bow is an extension of their arm. In the game, this translates to a massive starting bonus to archery, a head start that puts you levels above your peers before you've even fired a single shot at a target dummy. But the connection goes deeper than simple stat blocks. The Bosmer are bound by the Green Pact, a strict religious code agreed upon with Y'ffre, the forest deity. This is where the lore gets beautifully dark, perfect for a bedtime story. The Green Pact prohibits a wood elf from harming the vegetation of Valenwood. They cannot cut trees for lumber, they cannot eat berries or grain, and they certainly cannot smoke the local herbs. They are carnivores, strictly and completely. But the pact also dictates that they cannot waste. This leads to the meat mandate, a clause in their tradition that states a warrior must eat their fallen enemies within 3 days of the kill. Imagine the psychological edge that gives you. You aren't just sniping a bandit from a rocky outcropping. You are, according to the strictest interpretations of your ancestors' laws, grocery shopping. While the game mechanics of Skyrim don't force you to sit down and consume the Stormcloaks you pin to the wall, though the Ring of Namira can certainly facilitate that lifestyle choice, the lore implies a savagery beneath the stealth. Furthermore, because they cannot harm the trees of their homeland, traditional Bosmer bows are not made of wood. They are crafted from bone, horn, and sinew. There is an obscure lore tidbit found in older texts and developer commentaries suggesting that the finest Bosmer bows are constructed from the ribs of beasts, or even the bones of sentient enemies, strung with guts and held together by adhesive slimes. When you play a wood elf archer, you are wielding a weapon of death made off from death. It's a poetic cycle, and let's not forget their racial ability to command animal. In the early game, when a cave bear is barreling toward you at max speed and your arrows are merely annoying it, being able to turn that bear into a temporary ally is the difference between a loaded save file and a grisly ragdoll death. However, there is another path, the path of the cat. The Khajiit of Elsewhere offer a different flavour of stealth, one born not of the forest, but of the desert sands and the moons. While the Bosmer may be the superior marksman by birthright, the Khajiit are the masters of being nowhere and everywhere simultaneously. Their starting stats favour sneak heavily, allowing them to disappear into the shadows long before other races have figured out how to crouch properly. The Khajiit physiology is a fascinating subject of debate among Imperial scholars. Their morphology is determined by the faces of the moons, Massa and Secunda, at the time of their birth. This is why you can have Khajiit that look like house cats, the Alphek, and Khajiit that look nearly indistinguishable from wood elves, the Yomes. The variety we see in Skyrim, the Cathay, are bipedal, agile, and possess a distinct advantage, night eye. In the deep dark barrows of the Nords, where the Draugr slumber and the only light comes from flickering centuries-old braziers, the ability to toggle night vision at will is invaluable. Torches are for clumsy warriors who want to be seen. A true stealth archer needs to see the enemy before the enemy even knows they exist. The Khajiit eyes, glowing in the dark, allow for target acquisition in pitch blackness without giving away your position. Plus, if things go terribly wrong and you run out of arrows, those claws do extra unarmed damage. It's a nice backup plan, though if you're doing your job right, you'll never need to touch an enemy with your hands. Now you might be thinking, can't I just play a Breton for the magic resistance and still use a bow? Of course you can. In fact, this brings us to one of the most enduring community theories and memes surrounding the game, the stealth archer singularity. Fans and scholars of the game alike have long debated the phenomenon where, regardless of a player's initial intentions, they almost inevitably evolve into a stealth archer. You might start your playthrough intending to be a heavy armour-wearing, two-handed hammer-swinging orc berserker. But eventually, you hit a difficulty spike. You find a room with 3 Death Lords. You think, maybe I'll just crouch and take one shot for the critical damage bonus to thin the herd. It feels good. It feels safe. The reticle expands and contracts. The hidden eye remains closed. You take another shot and another. Before you know it, the Warhammer is in a chest in Breeze Home, and you're creeping through a dungeon in light armour, obsessing over arrow trajectories. Is this a failure of roleplay? Or is it testament to the sheer survivalist efficiency of the build? The community generally agrees. The stealth archer isn't just a class, it is the ultimate evolutionary form of the Dragonborn. It is the path of least resistance and highest reward. So, standing there in Helgen, as the Imperial captain impatiently waits for the list, the choice usually comes down to the aggressive precision of the Bosmer or the elusive utility of the Khajiit. If you choose the Bosmer, you are leaning into the sniper role. You are the hunter who strikes from a mile away, the one who embodies the spirit of the hunt. You are the descendant of the wild hunt, a ritual where Bosmer devolve into shifting chaotic beasts to destroy their enemies, though, thankfully, you won't need to go that far. You just need that plumpsiforwy to archery to make your early shots fly true. If you choose the Khajiit, you are the rogue. You are the shadow in the corner of the room. You're dealing with the casual racism of the Nords who think you're just there to steal their sweet rolls, all while you save their town from a dragon without them ever seeing you draw your weapon. The Night Eye gives you a tactical overlay that feels almost modern, a biological advantage that no spell or potion can perfectly replicate without cost. Ultimately, for the purposes of this guide, we will assume you have chosen one of these two ancient lineages, the blood of the hunter or the blood of the predator. You confirm your name. Hadvar nods, marking it down on his parchment. At least you'll die here, in your homeland, he says to the Nords, but he looks at you with a mixture of pity and indifference. He doesn't know. He sees a prisoner in rags. He doesn't see the demigod of death you're about to become. He doesn't see that you are about to exploit the very mechanics of this world to become invisible, invincible, and incredibly wealthy. The captain barks an order. The line moves. The priestess starts her last rites, droning on about the 8 divines, or 9, depending on who you ask in this political climate. The headsman's axe glints in the pale, overcast sunlight. It's a dull, heavy thing, stained with the rust of old blood. The Stormcloak soldier goes first, brave and foolish, interrupting the priestess to hurry his own death along. The sound of the axe hitting the block is wet and heavy, a visceral reminder of the stakes. Next, it's your turn. You're pushed forward. The rough wood of the block presses against your chest. You look down into the basket. It smells of iron and sawdust. This is the moment where most stories end, but yours is interrupted by a sound from the distance. A roar. Not the roar of a bear or troll, but something deeper, something that vibrates in your bone marrow. Alduin the World Eater has arrived, and in the chaos of fire and falling stone that is about to ensue, you aren't going to just survive. You're going to acquire your first weapon. The tutorial is over. The hunt is about to begin. The dragon screams, the sky turns the colour of a bruised plum, and the world shatters. It is time to stand up, shake off the concussion, and look for a bow. The world turns to fire. One moment you're contemplating your own mortality on a block of wood stained with centuries of executioner's sweat, and the next, the laws of physics are being politely asked to leave by a creature the size of a longship. Alduin, the first dragon, the World Eater, has arrived, and he is not here to negotiate. His voice, the Thuum, shatters the stone tower behind you, sending debris raining down like hail. It is a chaotic, deafening reprieve. You stumble to your feet, your vision blurring as the screen shakes, a cinematic technique designed to make you feel the sheer weight of the apocalypse. You follow Ralof, or Hadvar, it honestly doesn't matter much at this exact second, toward the tower. The air smells of ozone and burning pine. This is the Unbound quest, a title that is quite literal. You are unbound from the law, unbound from the execution, and soon unbound from the constraints of melee combat. As you navigate the burning ruins of Helgen, dodging dragonfire that turns guards into ash piles, there is a fascinating fan theory that often circulates in the deep lore threads of the community. Why did Alduin attack Helgen right then? Was it just terrible timing? Or did he sense a kindred spirit? Some lore enthusiasts argue that because the Dragonborn possesses the soul of a dragon, a shard of the time god Akatosh, Alduin sensed a rival, or perhaps a brother, and swooped in to investigate, accidentally saving the one being capable of killing him. It's a classic self-fulfilling prophecy. By interrupting your execution, he ensured his own demise. It's almost tragic in a destroyer of worlds sort of way. But you don't have time for tragedy. You have to jump. You leap from the crumbling tower through the roof of the burning inn. landing on the floorboards with a heavy thud. If you were playing a mage, you'd be looking for a staff. If you were a warrior, you'd be looking for an axe. But you are a stealth archer in the making, and your eyes are scanning the environment for one thing: wood and string. You rush through the streets, avoiding the dragon's teeth, and finally make it into the keep. Whether you followed the Imperial soldier or the Stormcloak rebel, the result is the same. The heavy doors slam shut, muting the screams of the dying town outside. The silence that follows is heavy, broken only by the panting of your companion and the crackle of distant flames. Here, your binds are cut, you are free, and immediately the instincts kick in. You strip the armour off the first dead body you find. It's Gunjar, if you followed Ralof. Poor Gunjar, he won't need that axe anymore. But the axe is heavy and loud. You take it only to sell it. What you're looking for is deeper in the dungeon. You fight your way through the initial skirmishes. The combat here is messy. You are level 1. You're swinging a rusty sword or spamming the basic flame spell like a panicked candle. It feels undignified. A future master of shadows shouldn't be engaging in sluggish face-to-face brawls. Be patient. The torture room is coming. The torture room of Helgen Keep is a grim little vignette of Skyrim's brutal justice system, but for us, it is a candy store. The racks are lined with knapsacks, potions and weapons, and there, sitting on a weapon rack or sometimes leaning against a table, is the holy grail of the early game, the longbow. It is not a glamorous weapon. It has the lowest base damage of any bow in the game, clocking in at a meagre 6 damage. It looks like a bent twig held together by hope, but when you pick it up, the interface clicks, and you feel the shift. You equip it. You equip the iron arrows scavenged from the dead soldiers. You are now online. Now here is a core in-game fact that many players breeze past in their rush to escape. The torture room also contains a very specific book on a table, titled The Book of the Dragonborn. It's a lore dump right at the start of the game, explaining the history of the Cyrodiilic emperors and the dragon blood. But why is it in the torturer's office? Is the torturer a scholar, or were they interrogating someone suspected of being dragonborn? The placement implies a darker narrative that the game never explicitly spells out, a hallmark of Bethesda's environmental storytelling. But back to the bow. The torturer and his assistant, or the Stormcloaks attacking them depending on your allegiance, provide your first real test subjects. You don't charge in, you hang back, you press the crouch button, the screen lowers, the crosshair changes. An eye icon appears in the centre of your screen, currently fully open, indicating you are detected. But as you tuck yourself behind a pillar, the eye closes. Hidden. This is the dopamine hit. The loop begins here. You knock an arrow. The wood creaks, a sound design detail that never gets old. You aim for the one in the hood. You release. Thwip. The arrow flies in a slight arc. At this range, you don't need to account for much drop, but the physics engine is active. The arrow strikes the target. A sneak attack multiplier notification flashes in the corner. 2.0x damage. The target stumbles, shouting, "Is someone there?" Of course someone is there, but they can't see you. You are a ghost. You draw again. This moment in the Helgen torture room is pivotal because it teaches you the rhythm of the playstyle. Draw, loose, wait, repeat. It teaches you that patience deals more damage than steel. You loot the room completely. You take the lockpicks from the knapsack, essential for the thief skills later. You take the potions. You probably take the torturer's hood if you killed him, which provides a nice aesthetic, even if it doesn't offer stats just yet. Moving deeper into the caves, the tutorial throws a few more obstacles your way to test your new toy. The bridge collapses. You fight some spiders. Spiders are annoying targets for archers because they are small, fast and erratic. Missing a shot here is common. It's humiliating to miss a spider the size of a dog from 3 feet away, but don't let it discourage you. We've all been there, frantically backpedaling while shooting arrows into the cavern floor. Then comes the bear, the generic stealth tutorial. Your companion whispers, "Wait, there's a bear up ahead. Seeing as you've got the bow, maybe you should take the lead." This is the game acknowledging your chosen path. It is granting you permission to take charge. The bear is sleeping. It is a massive, fury-filled damage sponge that could easily kill you in 2 hits at this level. But it is sleeping. You crouch walk forward. The mossy stone of the cave floor dampens your footsteps, or at least the game pretends it does. Your sneak skill is likely still under 20. You draw the longbow. You aim not for the body but for the head. Headshots in Skyrim don't have a specific damage multiplier in the vanilla coding compared to body shots, a surprising mechanical fact for many shooters, but they feel right. And often, modders or specific perk overhauls fix this, but in the base game, it's just about hitting the hitbox. You let the arrow fly. It strikes the bear. If you are lucky, and if you're playing on a lower difficulty, it might die instantly. If not, it roars and charges. You frantically backpedal, firing arrows wildly, abandoning all pretense of stealth. That's okay, you're still learning. You emerge from the cave, blinking into the harsh light of the Skyrim afternoon. Alduin is gone, having flown off to resurrect more dragons and eat some souls. You are alive. You have a bow, a handful of iron arrows and a stolen sweet roll. Below you lies the valley of Riverwood. It looks peaceful. The water flows, the birds sing, and the Bleak Falls Barrow looms on the mountain like a tombstone. Most players look at that view and see adventure. You look at that view and calculate the sight lines. You start the trek down the mountain. There is a standing stone nearby, but before we get to celestial alignments, we have a more pressing matter. We need a mentor. We need someone who can take our clumsy, level 15 archery skills and turn them into something respectable. And ideally, we need someone who will do it for free. As you walk down the path, passing the 3 guardian stones, don't touch them yet, we have a strategy for that. You enter the sleepy village of Riverwood. Here, amidst the lumber mills and blacksmiths, a love triangle is brewing. It's a petty, small-town drama involving a bard, an elf, and a shopkeeper's sister. To the average citizen, it's gossip. To you, it is an opportunity for exploitation. You're looking for an elf named Faendal. He's chopping wood, or perhaps leaning against a railing, looking wistful. He has no idea that he's about to become the single most important stepping stone in your journey to godhood. He thinks he needs help wooing Camilla Valerius. What he actually needs is to empty his pockets of gold and teach you everything he knows, over and over again. The river rushes by, a constant white noise churn that masks the sound of your boots on the dirt path. Riverwood is arguably the coziest settlement in the province. It smells of sawdust and fresh salmon. It feels safe. But we aren't here for safety. We are here for efficiency. As you cross the stone bridge, you might notice a chicken scratching in the dirt. A word of advice: do not kick the chicken. In the twisted legal system of Skyrim, assaulting this poultry is a capital offence punishable by death from the entire town guard and arguably the local grandmother. Leave the bird alone. We have bigger game to hunt. Our target is usually found near the lumber mill, working a job that is, ironically, a massive theological contradiction. Faendal is a wood elf. As we discussed earlier, traditional Bosmer adhere to the Green Pact, which forbids harming the vegetation of the forest. Yet, here is Faendal, day in and day out, feeding logs into a massive saw blade to produce lumber for the Nords. This brings us to a juicy bit of obscure lore. The Green Pact technically only applies within the borders of Valenwood. There is a concept known as the Brown Pact in fan discussions, though not an official term, referring to the loopholes Bosmer use when they travel abroad. However, strict traditionalists would view Faendal's profession as heresy. He is profaning the bones of the earth for a paycheck. But his spiritual flexibility is our gain. Because Faendal is not just a lumberjack, he is an expert archer. Before we can exploit him, we must befriend him. This involves navigating the A Lovely Letter quest, a petty domestic dispute that serves as the gateway to your early game power. You find Faendal arguing with Sven, the local bard. Sven is a Nord who spends his days drinking at the Sleeping Giant Inn and playing the lute badly. He wants to woo Camilla Valerius, the sister of the local trader. Faendal also wants to woo Camilla. The choice here is binary, but for a stealth archer, it is an IQ test. If you side with Sven, you gain a follower who plays music. He can tank a few hits, sure, but his skill set is heavy armour and one-handed weapons, and he's not particularly good at either. He is loud, he is clumsy, he is the antithesis of the shadow. If you side with Faendal, you gain a fellow archer. You take the fake letter Sven writes, a piece of misogynistic fiction claiming Faendal wants Camilla to clean his house and do his laundry, and you show it to Camilla. You tell her the truth. Sven wanted to trick you. She's disgusted by Sven, charmed by your honesty, and subsequently falls into the arms of Faendal. You return to the elf. He is ecstatic. He offers you a small amount of gold, but more importantly, he says, "If you ever need a hunting partner, just ask." And just like that, you have unlocked the Faendal Advantage. You ask him to follow you. He agrees. Now, access his dialogue menu. You will see an option. Can you train me to be better at archery? Faendal is a common level trainer, meaning he can teach you archery up to skill level 50. In the early game, skill 50 is practically godhood, but training costs gold. A lot of gold. Gold you surely don't have after escaping Helgen with nothing but a stolen sweet roll and some grey loot. This is where the morality of the game mechanics gets murky. This is the Riverwood Scholarship. You ask Faendal to train you. You pay him the gold. The level up sound plays, a satisfying drumbeat and choir. Your archery skill ticks up. The gold is removed from your inventory and placed into his. But wait, Faendal is your follower. He has sworn to carry your burdens. You open his inventory to trade items, and there, sitting in his pocket, is the gold you just paid him. You take the gold back. You close the menu. You speak to him again. Can you train me to be better at archery? You pay him with the same gold you just took back. You repeat this loop 5 times per character level until you hit the cap for that level. Then you open your skills menu, level up your character, dumping points into health or stamina, never magicka, we aren't wizards, and reset the training limit. You can stand there by the pile of chopped wood and power level your archery from 15 to 50 in the span of 10 minutes. It is a time-honoured tradition. It is the stealth archer's birthright. Now, a brief interruption for a community debate that still rages on forums. Is this cheating? Purists argue that the follower-trainer gold loop breaks the economy and immersion of the game. They say a true adventurer earns their skills in the blood of the field. Bethesda even patched this interaction out in the unofficial Skyrim patch, a mod considered essential by many PC players. If you are playing with that patch installed, or on a version of the game that restricts this, you cannot take the gold back. It is marked as his personal property. If that is the case, do not despair. The strategy shifts, but the goal remains the same. You simply use Faendal as a free bow. Even without the infinite training loop, having a second archer doubles your projectile output. When you crouch, he crouches, usually. When you fire, he fires. It turns every engagement into a crossfire. But assuming you have utilised the Faendal Advantage to its fullest, you're now walking out of Riverwood with an archery skill hovering around 50. This unlocks critical perks in the skill tree. You take Overdraw, levels 1, 2 and maybe 3, increasing your bow damage by a massive percentage. But the real prize, the perk that changes the genre of the game from RPG to sniper simulator, is Eagle Eye. Eagle Eye requires Archery 30. It allows you to press the block button while aiming to zoom in. The camera swoops forward, the field of view narrows, and suddenly, that bandit standing on the ramparts of Bleak Falls Barrow isn't a collection of pixels, he is a target. You can see the grime on his fur armour. You can see the moment he stops moving to scratch his nose. This zoom function does more than just help you aim. It slows down your mouse or stick sensitivity, allowing for micro adjustments. It turns the chaotic flailing of low-level combat into a precise surgical procedure. Before you leave Riverwood, there is one more stop, the Riverwood Trader. Lucan Valerius is grateful to you for returning the Golden Claw. Wait, we haven't done that yet. He will be grateful. For now, he is just a merchant. You sell off the heavy iron axes and armour you looted in Helgen. You buy every single iron arrow he has in stock. You also check his inventory for lockpicks. Always buy lockpicks. You can never have enough. And, if you are lucky, he might be selling a ring or a necklace with a minor enchantment, Fortify Archery, or Fortify Sneak. It's rare at this low level, but the RNG, random number generation gods, are fickle. If you see it, sell everything you own, including your clothes if necessary, to buy it. You step out of the trader's shop. The sun is beginning to set, casting long purple shadows across the valley. The peaks of the mountains are dusted with snow that glows pink in the fading light. Faendal is behind you, bow drawn, ready to die for a person he met 20 minutes ago because you delivered a letter. The path to Bleak Falls Barrow winds up the mountain, a treacherous snowy trail infested with wolves and bandits. This is the first real dungeon. This is where the training wheels come off. You check your inventory. You have the longbow, fine, if you improved it at the grindstone, or perhaps Faendal's hunting bow if you traded it from him and gave him the worse one. You have 40 arrows. You have the zoom perk. You look at Faendal. Try to keep up, you whisper. The trek up the mountain is lonely. The wind howls, stripping the warmth from your body. You encounter a tower near the bridge. Bandits. Usually this would be a brawl, but now you crouch. You zoom. The bandit is leaning against the wall, looking out over the valley, unaware that his life expectancy is measured in seconds. You release the arrow. It flies true, bolstered by your inflated skill stat. It strikes him in the back. He folds. His friends shout, "Who's there?" You don't answer. You just knock another arrow. Faendal, bless his heart, sends an arrow into the knee of the second bandit. It's a chaotic symphony of wood and string. But as you reach the summit and the massive monolithic arches of the barrow loom overhead, you realize something. The cold is getting into your bones. The shadows here are deeper, and the enemies inside aren't just bandits, they are the ancient dead. And to kill what is already dead, you need more than just a sharp stick. You need the stars themselves to align in your favour. You look to the sky. The constellations of Tamriel are not just pretty lights, they are sources of power, and you need to decide which cosmic force will guide your hand. The wind howls at the entrance of Bleak Falls Barrow, a mournful sound that cuts through even the warmest fur armour. The heavy iron doors loom before you, decorated with the primitive, terrifying motifs of the ancient Nords, dragons, snakes, and whales. But before we plunge into the crypts to wake the dead, we need to talk about the sky. Specifically, the constellations that govern fate in Tamriel. Back near Riverwood, you pass the 3 guardian stones: the warrior, the mage, and the thief. Most aspiring stealth archers instinctively tap the thief stone. It makes sense, right? It boosts experience gain for sneak, lockpicking, pickpocket, and light armor by 20%. It's the safe vanilla choice. It helps you level faster. But here is a reality check for the optimized player. Leveling too fast can actually kill you. In Skyrim, the world levels with you. If you power level your non-combat skills like pickpocketing or lockpicking, you will gain character levels. The game will see you are level 10 and spawn level 10 enemies, snow bears, bandit thugs, maybe a frost troll. But if your combat skills, archery, are still lagging behind because you spent all your time picking pockets in Riften, that frost troll is going to rip you apart like wet tissue paper. You will be a level 10 character with a damage output of a level 3. This is the thief's trap. So while the thief stone is good, it is not the best. Not for the ultimate predator. We need to look further afield. We need to look at the lady, the lover, or the worsteedy. However, for pure raw damage output and stabilization early game, there is a compelling argument for the Warrior Stone. Yes, the warrior. Why? Because archery, in a bizarre twist of Bethesda categorization logic, falls under the warrior skill set for the purpose of experience gain, not the thief skill set. Wait, let's clarify that. This is a point of confusion that has plagued forums since 2011. In the vanilla game UI, the archery constellation is positioned between the thief and warrior nebulas, implying a hybrid nature. But mechanically, the thief stone does boost archery leveling speed in the base game code. However, the warrior stone boosts it too in certain patch versions or overhaul mods. But let's stick to the vanilla verified facts. The thief stone covers archery. I stand corrected by the codebase itself. The warrior stone boosts archery is a persistent myth born from the fact that combat feels warrior coded. So, stick with the thief stone initially. Actually no, the true connoisseur of the stealth art seeks the lover stone. Located east of Markarth, perched precariously on a mountain ledge that is annoying to reach, the lover stone grants you the lover's comfort bonus permanently. All skills improve 15% faster. It's a lower percentage than the thief's 20%, but it covers everything. It boosts your archery for damage, your sneak for survival, and your light armor for when you inevitably screw up. It prevents the lopsided leveling problem by keeping your defensive and offensive skills growing in tandem. But there is a darker, more advanced option. The Atronach Stone. But wait, you ask, isn't that for mages? The Atronach Stone grants 50 extra magicka, 50% spell absorption, and creates a penalty to magicka regeneration. As a stealth archer, you don't care about magicka regeneration, you barely use magicka, but that 50% spell absorption, that is a game changer. Dragon Breath is a spell. Rune traps are spells. Spit from poisonous chorus bugs counts as a magical effect. By taking the Atronach Stone, you are effectively coin flipping to ignore half the elemental damage in the game. It turns you into a mage-killing tank without wearing a single piece of heavy armor. For now, let's assume you have stuck with the Thief Stone for the early game velocity, planning to swap to the Lover or Atronach later. The stars are aligned. You enter Bleak Falls Barrow. The interior is damp. The air is thick with dust and the smell of embalming fluid. You crouch. The eye closes. You're in your element. Here you encounter the first real test of your patience. The bandit at the campfire. He is facing away from you. This is the tutorial for the backstab, or in our case, the backshot. You aim, you release. He drops. But deeper in, past the puzzle with the snakes and dolphins, remember, look at the walls, the answer is always on the walls, lies the spider room. A giant frostbite spider drops from the ceiling. It is terrifying if you have arachnophobia, and annoying if you don't. This is where you learn the kite and bite technique. The spider is too big to fit through the doorway you just entered. You stand in the doorway, you shoot the spider screams and spits poison, but it cannot reach you. You're cheesing the encounter. Is it honourable? No. Is it effective? Absolutely. You're a stealth archer. Honour is for people who respawn at the last save point. You cut down Arvel the Swift from the web. He runs. You shoot him in the back. He has the golden claw. You take it. Now, the Draugr. These ancient Nords wake up when you trespass. They are slow, shuffling, and moan constantly. They are perfect target practice. You move through the crypts, arrow by arrow. You learn to listen for the sound of coffin lids bursting open. You learn that the glowing blue eyes in the dark are the only warning you get. Finally, you reach the word wall. The chanting begins. Force, balance, push. You learn the first word of unrelenting force. Thus. A dragon overlord bursts from a sarcophagus. He is tough. He can shout. If you stand toe-to-toe with him, he will ragdoll you. But you don't stand toe-to-toe. You run back up the wooden ramp to the side of the room. He can't climb well. You pelt him with arrows from the high ground. It's the Battle of Agincourt, recreated in a damp basement. You loot the Dragon Stone. You exit the dungeon via the convenient back door that opens into the fresh mountain air. You have survived the first dungeon. You have the shout, though you can't use it yet. You have loot. But your gear is still trash. You're wearing leather or hide. You look like a bandit. A true master of shadows needs to look the part. You need armor that doesn't just protect you. You need armor that makes you better. You need to go to Riften. Riften is the city of autumn, where the leaves are always gold and the corruption is always high. It is home to the Thieves Guild, and in the sewers beneath the city, in a place called the Ratway, lies the secret to the best early game armor set for our build. The Thieves Guild armor, and eventually the Nightingale armor. But we aren't joining for the camaraderie. We are joining for the Blackguard armor if you have the Dragonborn DLC and are willing to exploit a glitch, or, more simply, the standard issue guild kit. The hood grants 10% better prices, useful. The gloves grant 15% easier lockpicking, essential. The boots grant 15% better pickpocketing, niche. But the armor, the cuirass grants carry weight, plus 20 kiamd. Wait, that's not right. The standard armor is good, but we want the guild master's skin. Or better yet, the shrouded armoress of the Dark Brotherhood. Actually, let's pivot. The Thieves Guild is great for money, but for killing, we need the Dark Brotherhood. However, the Thieves Guild offers something else. The skeleton key, eventually, and access to fences to sell your stolen goods. Let's stick to the plan. The Ratway. You travel to Riften. The guards try to shake you down at the gate for a visitor's tax. You persuade, intimidate, or bribe your way in. You drop down to the lower level by the canal. You enter the Ratway. It is a sewer dungeon. It is filled with low-life thugs and skeevers. It is dark, cramped, and perfect for a shotgun-style archery approach. You clear the tunnels. You find the Ragged Flagon, a cistern converted into a bar. Here you meet Brynjolf. He has a terrible accent and a proposition. You ignore his scheme to frame Branché for a moment. You just want in. You do his dirty work. You plant the ring. You're welcomed into the fold. You're given your uniform. You put it on. Suddenly, you look like a professional. The dark leather fits tight. The hood casts a shadow over your face. You feel faster, but there is a piece of gear nearby that is even better. In the training room of the cistern, there are chests, and if you follow the quest line just a bit further, you gain access to a fence named Tanelia. She can upgrade one piece of your armor, but the real treasure isn't given to you. It's found. In the deeper tunnels of the Ratway vaults, or perhaps later in the quest line, you will encounter the Art Nightingale armor. This is the peak aesthetic. A flowing cape, a face mask that removes your identity entirely, and enchantments that boost stamina and frost resistance. However, we're getting ahead of ourselves. You're still level 10 or 15. You have the basic Thieves Guild gear. You look cool, but you're still vulnerable. You need to understand why. The enemies can't see you. It's not just the armor, it's the mechanics of light and sound. You need to master the invisible geometry of the game engine. You need to understand the detection eye, not as a UI element, but as a radar. Standing in the ragged flagon, listening to Vex complain about a botched job, you realise that stealth isn't magic, it's math. It is calculation of ambient light levels versus your sneak skill, minus the weight of your boots, divided by the noise of your weapon. And right now your weapon is too loud. Every time you fire that bow it makes a sound, a thwip that alerts enemies within a certain radius. You need to dampen that sound. You need to move slower. You need to become a void in the world. The Ratway is not a dungeon you conquer. It is a digestive tract you survive. You have descended from the autumn beauty of Riften's surface into the dank, dripping bowels of the city, and the shift in atmosphere is palpable. The air here tastes of rust and bad decisions. As you navigate the stone tunnels, stepping over puddles that you definitely do not want to inspect too closely, you're about to earn your stripes, or rather, your leathers. We glossed over the specifics of the Ratway's inhabitants earlier, but for a stealth archer, this sewer is a crucible. The sightlines are terrible. The corridors are narrow, twisting and cluttered with debris. It forces you to adapt. You can't just snipe from a mountain peak here. This is close quarters quiet work. Your first major obstacle is usually a man named Jan the Fist. He wears heavy armor gauntlets and has a name that implies he doesn't enjoy diplomacy. If you try to box him, you will lose. But you have a bow. The strategy here is the sewer shuffle. You pop out from a corner, loose an arrow into his unarmored chest and retreat. He runs into the bear traps scattered on the floor, traps that you stepped over because you were looking down. He shouts, limps, and dies. Loot him for the rular, gloves of the pugilist. You won't wear them, but you will disenchant them later to make a ring of punching people really hard for when you run out of arrows. Pushing past the lowlifes and the skeever infestations, you finally reach the cistern door. The ragged flagon reveals itself, a sanctuary of scum and villainy located inside a literal cistern. It's damp, it's dark, and it's home. After you complete Brynjolf's hazing ritual, planting the ring on poor Branché, you are officially invited to the cistern. This is the moment. You walk across the wooden bridges, past the training dummies that have suffered more abuse than any NPC in history, and meet Tanelia. She hands you the Thieves Guild armor. It isn't just clothing, it is a toolkit woven into leather. Let's look at the stats, because a true stealth archer obsesses over the numbers. The hood boosts your barter prices by 10%. essential for selling all the loot you're about to steal. The gloves make lockpicking 15% easier. This flattens the difficulty curve of master level chess significantly. The boots beam make pickpocketing 15% easier. Useful for stripping guards naked without them noticing, a favourite pastime of the bored rogue. But the cuirass grants you carry weight, plays 20 an. Now, 20 points of carry weight might not sound like much to a heavy warrior, but to you, that's 200 more arrows, that's 3 more dragon bones, that's the difference between fast travelling home and slowly walking across the map while over-encumbered. There is, however, a piece of obscure lore, or rather a specific lootable item, that veteran players know puts this standard issue gear to shame. It involves a trip to the island of Solstheim, specifically to the house of Glover Mallory, the blacksmith in Raven Rock. He is Delvin Mallory's brother, the guy in the flagon who gives you the fishing jobs. If you clip through his door using a wooden plate, a glitch, or complete his quest legitimately, you can acquire the red Blackguard armour. It uses the exact same model as the Thieves Guild armour, mostly, but the textures are slightly darker, more worn. The stats, however, are vastly superior. The Blackguard hood gives 25% better prices. The cuirass gives plus 50 carry weight. It is effectively the Guild Master armour available at level 1 without ever completing the Guild questline. It is a secret set that feels like a developer cheat code left in the world for the observant. But assuming you're sticking to the mainland for now, the standard Guild armour is your new skin. You put it on. The aesthetic is undeniable. You look like a professional problem solver. This brings us to a fan theory that circulates about the state of the guild. Have you noticed how run down the flagon is? How the armour, while functional, looks patched and weary? The community speculates that the curse Mercer Frey brought upon the guild by stealing the skeleton key didn't just affect their luck, it decayed their very reality. The water in the cistern is stagnant. The gold flow has dried up. By donning this armour, you're inheriting a legacy of failure. But you are the Dragonborn. You don't fail. You crouch. With the armour equipped, you're now ready to tackle the Golden Glow estate job. This is the first real stealth archer playground. The estate is on an island in the middle of the lake. It has guards patrolling in predictable patterns. It has beehives you need to burn. Only 3. Don't burn them all, or Maven Blackbriar will dock your pay, and she is terrifying. You swim across the lake. The water hides you. You emerge from the reeds like a swamp monster. The sun is setting. You see a mercenary on the dock. You're wearing the guild boots. Your steps are silent. You're wearing the guild gloves. You pick the lock on the side gate without breaking a single pick. You're wearing the guild hood. You look cool. You take the shot. Do you thwip? The mercenary falls into the water with a splash. No one hears it. You creep forward. This is the power fantasy. You aren't just killing enemies. You are dissecting the level. You're clearing the map node by node. However, as you navigate the corridors of Golden Glow, avoiding the magical tripwires, you realise that your gear can only do so much. There is a mechanic at play here that is invisible to the naked eye, but governs every second of your existence. It is the mechanic of detection. The eye on the screen is a simplified representation of a complex algorithm, and to truly become the ultimate stealth archer, you need to understand what the game engine is actually thinking. You need to know how the AI sees, because right now you're invisible because you're far away. But what happens when you need to be in the same room? What happens when you need to shoot an arrow past a guard's ear to hit the guy behind him? The Thieves Guild armour has given you the tools of the trade. Now, You must master the physics of the shadow. You return to the flagon, pockets heavy with stolen beekeeping equipment. Why is that worth so much? And you realise that you need to go deeper into the mechanics. You need to understand light, sound, and the AI's cone of vision. You sit at the table with Vex and Delvin. They are bickering. You are staring at the candle in the centre of the table, watching how the light flickers, calculating the radius of illumination. You are ready to learn the science of disappearance. You are sitting in the dark staring at a candle. To the average citizen of Skyrim, a candle is a source of comfort, a beacon against the terrors of the night. To you, it is a threat. It is a tactical variable that must be eliminated. Understanding the mechanics of stealth in Skyrim requires you to stop thinking like a hero and start thinking like a programmer. You need to understand the rules of the simulation so you can break them. The user interface gives you a single tool, the eye. This reticle is your lifeline. When the eye is flat, you are a ghost. When it opens slightly, the AI is searching. When it is fully open, you are detected. But what is actually happening under the hood of the creation engine when that eye twitches? First, let's talk about light. Skyrim's lighting engine is deceptive. What looks dark to you might not be dark to the AI. The game calculates your visibility based on a light level variable attached to your character's position. This is why you can sometimes be standing in what appears to be a pitch black corner, yet the enemy spots you instantly. You're standing in ambient light that the game registers, even if the graphics engine doesn't render it as a spotlight. The true stealth archer learns to trust the UI more than their own eyes. If the crosshair doesn't say hidden, you are lit up like a festival tree, no matter how shadowy the texture on the floor looks. This leads to the aggressive habit of shooting the lights out. While you can't destroy light sources like in Splinter Cell or Thief, a tragic omission for stealth purists, you can interact with the environment. Torches on walls? Take them. Braziers? Sorry, those are permanent. But by removing portable light sources, you are literally editing the difficulty of the encounter in real time. Next, we have sound. Every movement you make generates a noise value. This value is determined by the weight of your armor and the speed of your movement. This is why we wear light armor. Heavy armor is loud. The game adds a massive noise penalty to every step. However, there is a nuance here that many players miss. The noise is calculated based on the weight of the armor, not just the class. This means a Daedric bow, which is incredibly heavy, technically makes more noise when you unsheath it than a simple hunting bow. Is it enough to matter? Usually no, but for the min-maxers, it's a detail to obsess over. But the most critical aspect of sound is the muffle effect. You can find boots with the muffle enchantment, or cast the muffle illusion spell. Here is the obscure mechanical fact. The muffle enchantment found on random loot usually has a magnitude of 0.5, 50% noise reduction. The muffle spell has a magnitude of 1.0, 100% noise reduction. But uniquely, the ancient boots you get from the Dark Brotherhood or the Nightingale boots often have custom magnitudes that can reach or exceed 100%. If you achieve 100% muffle, you can run, full sprint, behind a blind enemy, and they will never hear you. You're completely silent. You're a void in the audio spectrum. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Or rather, the arrow in the head. We have to talk about the AI. The guards in Skyrim are famous for their stupidity. You shoot a bandit. He takes an arrow to the chest. He shouts, "Is someone there?" He searches for 30 seconds. Then, with the arrow still protruding from his lung, he sheaths his sword and says, "Must have been the wind." This is the must have been the wind phenomenon, a meme that has transcended the game to become a cultural touchstone. Fans love to mock it, but from a gameplay perspective, it is a mercy. The game is programmed to reset the AI state from combat to idle if they cannot find the source of the damage within a specific timer. It is a forgiveness mechanic. If the AI held a grudge forever, stealth would be impossible. They are programmed to forget you. However, there is a community discovery that turns the AI's line of sight into a slapstick comedy routine. This is the bucket trick. The AI's vision is determined by a cone originating from their head. If you obscure the head, you obscure the vision. Enterprising players discovered that you can pick up a wooden bucket, hold the interact button, lift it over a shopkeeper's head, and gently place it upon them. If done correctly, the bucket stays on. The NPC does not remove it. They just stand there, wearing a bucket. And because the bucket blocks their line of sight, you can rob their entire store right in front of them. You can steal the clothes off their backs. You can dance on the counter. To them, the world has simply gone dark. It is the ultimate exploit of the vision mechanic, proving that in Tamriel, if you can't see the crime, it didn't happen. While we won't be using buckets in combat, it's hard to put a bucket on a charging orc, we will use the geometry of the level. The sneak eye is your radar. When it starts to open, stop moving. If it widens, back up. If it goes full open, you have two choices: fight or vanish. To vanish, you need to break the line of sight and then crouch. The AI will go to your last known location. This is crucial. If you shoot from a doorway, they will run to the doorway. If you're still standing there, you are dead. If you shoot and immediately roll to the left behind a crate, they will run to the doorway, look around, and let you shoot them in the back. This is the shoot and scoot. It is the rhythm of the mid-game. You're no longer just a sniper, you're a guerrilla fighter. But arrows are physical objects. They have weight, they have drop, and more importantly, they run out. We've been relying on iron arrows and whatever we can scavenge. But what if you never ran out of ammo? What if your weapon was bound to your soul, weightless and infinite? There is a school of magic that the Nords distrust but which we must embrace. Conjuration, specifically the spellbound bow. It is a spell that summons a Daedric quality bow made of blue spectral energy, complete with 100 spectral arrows that replenish every time you cast it. It deals massive damage, it looks incredibly cool, and you can get it right now for free if you are brave enough to run a suicide mission into a fort filled with mages who are much higher level than you. You look at your map. Fort Amol lies in the snowy wastes of Eastmarch. It is far, it is dangerous, but the reward is a weapon that will carry you through the next 30 levels. You tighten the straps of your Thieves Guild armor, you check your potions. It's time to stop relying on sticks and string and start wielding the magic of oblivion. The road to Fort Amol is paved with good intentions and bad weather. You're leaving the temperate comfort of the Rift and heading north into Eastmarch, where the snow never really melts and the wind sounds like a wheezing giant. You're hunting for a book, but this isn't a library trip, it is a heist. The target is the spell tome, Bound Bow. For the uninitiated, relying on magic might seem counterintuitive for a stealth archer. Isn't the whole point to use physical prowess? To rely on steel and sinew? But the true master understands that magic is just another form of ammunition. And the bound bow is arguably the most efficient weapon in the entire game for the mid-level adventurer. Why do we want it? Let's look at the math. A standard Daedric bow, the endgame goal for most players, has a base damage of 19. The bound bow, when you summon it, has a base damage of 18. However, it comes equipped with 100 bound arrows that also boast Daedric tier damage ratings. This means that at level 5, level 10, or whenever you make this run, you are effectively wielding an endgame weapon. It is weightless, meaning it doesn't drain your stamina when you run. It has the fastest draw speed of any heavy bow, and it looks undeniably cool. A spectral, glowing blue construct of pure energy that hums with menace. But getting it requires you to trespass in Fort Amol, a stronghold occupied by rogue mages. And unlike bandits who rush you with rusty axes, mages will turn you into an ice sculpture or a pile of ash before you can say Fusrodar. You approach the fort. It sits near the White River, grim and imposing. You don't clear the courtyard. That would be suicide. You are a ghost, remember? You skirt the edges, dodging the stray ice spike hurled by a perimeter guard who thought they saw something. You slip into the door marked Fort Amol Prison. Inside, the air is tense. You can hear the mages talking in the next room. They are discussing magical theory or perhaps complaining about the draft. You crouch. You move forward. Here is the core in-game fact that veterans treat like gospel. The tome is not in a chest. It is not on a pedestal. It is hidden in a bucket, specifically inside a bucket underneath a lantern, in the back left corner of the room with the bookshelves. It is hidden under other items. You have to physically look inside the bucket. It feels like a developer's prank, a reward for the obsessively curious. You grab the book, you learn the spell. Now you have to get out, you retrace your steps. Maybe you steal a few potions on the way. Mages always have good potions. You burst back out into the cold air of Skyrim. You are alive. You have the power, but now you encounter a problem. You equip the spell. You crouch in the bushes outside the fort to test it. You cast it. The sound of summoning a bound weapon is not subtle. It sounds like someone ripping a hole in the fabric of reality, which, to be fair, is exactly what you're doing. The mages inside the fort probably heard it. A mud crab 3 miles away probably heard it. This brings us to a significant community debate regarding the stealth mage archetype. Is it truly stealthy if your weapon announcement is louder than a shout? Purists argue that bound bow ruins the immersion of a silent assassin. The visual effect, the bright blue glow, also acts as a beacon in dark dungeons. Technically, the game engine doesn't treat the light of the bow as a detection event, Skyrim logic, but the sound of casting it is absolutely a detection event. To fix this, you need to dip into the illusion skill tree. You need the perk Quiet Casting. This perk makes all your spells silent. With it, you can summon your demon bow while standing directly behind an enemy, and they won't hear a thing. Without it, you have to summon the bow before you enter the room, which lasts for 120 seconds. It adds a time limit to your stealth. You are on the clock. And let's talk about what you are actually holding. The obscure lore surrounding bound weapons is fascinating and slightly disturbing. In the Elder Scrolls cosmology, a bound weapon is not just magic shaped into a sword or bow. It is a daedra, a lesser daedra plucked from the chaotic waters of oblivion and forced into the shape of a weapon by your will. When you draw that spectral string, you are stretching the essence of a living, or chaotic, being. When you fire an arrow, you are firing a piece of that entity, and when the spell expires, or you sheathe the weapon, the daedra is banished back to oblivion, likely very confused and irritated. You aren't just an archer, you're a prison warden for demons, using them to hunt deer and bandits. Mechanically, the bound bow offers another massive advantage, the Mystic Binding perk in the Conjuration tree. This perk increases the damage of bound weapons. With this perk, which you can get quite early, The bound bow outdamages almost anything you can smith until you max out your smithing and enchanting skills. It is the king of the mid-game. You stand on the snowy banks of the White River, the new spell glowing in your hand. You cast it. The bow materializes. You draw the string. A spectral arrow appears. You loose it at a passing salmon. Overkill? Yes. Satisfying. Immensely. But there is a catch. There is always a catch. The bound bow cannot be enchanted. You cannot put Paralyze or Soul Trap on it directly. However, the Conjuration tree has a perk called Soul Stealer, which makes bound weapons cast Soul Trap automatically on hit. This is infinite soul gems. You're now a factory for filled soul gems, which you can use to level your enchanting, which you will eventually use to make a physical bow that surpasses this magical one. It is the circle of life. You are now a hybrid, a witch hunter. You have the stealth of a thief and the firepower of a sorcerer. The bandits of Skyrim won't know what hit them. They will just see a flash of blue light, and then they will be dead. However, damage is only one part of the equation. Sometimes you don't just want to kill an enemy, you want to stop them. You want to freeze them in place, helpless, while you line up the perfect second shot. Or perhaps you want to watch them fall over, stiff as a board, in a moment of physical comedy that breaks the tension of the dungeon crawl. To do this, we need to leave the arcane arts for a moment and return to the earth. We need to get our hands dirty. We need alchemy. Most players ignore alchemy. They think it's just about making healing potions or restoring stamina. They are wrong. Alchemy is the path to breaking the game's combat mechanics completely. And for an archer, the goal is not healing, it is poison. Specifically, we're looking for paralysis poisons. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, funnier or more tactically effective than hitting a charging giant with a paralysis arrow and watching him topple over like a felled tree. He lies there, groaning, while you leisurely walk up and finish the job. But to brew such a concoction, we need ingredients. We need to become botanists of death. We need to find the swamp. You look at your map again. West of Solitude, in the gloom of Yalmarsh, lie the marshes. It is a miserable place, filled with spiders and chorus. But it is also the garden of the stealth archer. You banish your bound bow. It fades into mist. You pull up your hood. It's time to go picking flowers. The swamps of Yalmarch are not a vacation destination. The ground squelches under your boots, the air hangs heavy with fog, and the local wildlife consists mostly of spiders the size of ponies and chorus that spit acid. Most travellers sprint through this region on their way to Solitude, holding their breath. But you are here to grocery shop. We are entering the phase of the game where you stop playing fair. Honour is a constraint for warriors who like reloading their save files. You are a pragmatist. And nothing says pragmatic quite like coating your arrow in a neurotoxin that shuts down your enemy's central nervous system before they even know they're in a fight. Welcome to the botany of death. Alchemy is the stealth archer's force multiplier. While your bow deals the physical damage, the poisons you brew dictate the terms of the engagement. And there is one recipe, one specific cocktail of natural ingredients that is the bread and butter of the high-level hunter: paralysis. You're looking for two specific items in this damp, miserable bog. First, imp stool. These are the small, squat mushrooms with yellowish-orange caps. They grow in caves and dark, damp places, but they are plentiful here. They look unassuming, almost cute. They are not. Second, canis root. These look like gnarled, dead twigs sticking out of the mud, usually near rocks or trees. They blend in perfectly with the dreary landscape of Jarlmarch, making them annoying to spot until you develop alchemist eyes, that specific gamer vision where you ignore the dragon flying overhead because you spotted a rare flower. You gather handfuls of them. The sound of harvesting, shh, is rhythmic and satisfying. You find an alchemy lab. There's one in the inn at Morthal, or perhaps you bought a house and built one. You stand before the bubbling retorts and grinding mortar. You combine Canis root and Impstool, Bloop, Potion of Paralysis. In its base form without perks, it might only paralyze a target for 2 or 3 seconds. That sounds short, but in the combat rhythm of Skyrim, 3 seconds is an eternity. It is enough time to knock another arrow, it is enough time to reposition, it is enough time to laugh. But the true magic happens when you mix in a third ingredient. If you add Mora tapinella, a fungus found on tree stumps, you create a poison that causes paralysis and lingering health damage. Now, you aren't just freezing them, you're rotting them from the inside out while they watch. This brings us to a crucial mechanic that separates the amateurs from the professionals, the concentrated poison perk in the alchemy tree. By default, a poison applied to a bow lasts for exactly 1 shot. If you miss, you just fired a 50 gold potion into a rock. This anxiety makes players hoard potions for a rainy day and never use them. This is the elixir syndrome. The concentrated poison perk changes the math. It allows 1 dose of poison to last for 2 hits. Suddenly, your efficiency doubles. Every vial of green goo in your inventory represents 2 dead enemies. Now for a piece of obscure lore that adds a grim flavour to your brewing. Have you ever read the in-game book The Poison Song? It is an ancient text that details the moral conflict of the Morag Tong and the Dark Brotherhood regarding the use of poisons. While the Dark Brotherhood embraces it, many traditional warrior cultures in Tamriel view the use of poisoned arrows as the ultimate cowardice. In the Second Era, during the Alliance War, using poison was often considered a war crime, reserved for the most reviled assassins. By mastering this art, you are culturally marking yourself as a pariah. You are rejecting the Nordic ideal of Valhalla Sovngarde through glorious combat, in favour of the cold efficiency of Sithis. But let's test our new creation. You find a giant camp. Giants are the litmus test for Skyrim builds. Early game, they launch you into the stratosphere, the Skyrim space program. But now, you crouch on a ridge. You apply the poison. The screen flashes green for a second. The arrow drips. You fire. Thwack. The giant roars, starts to run, and then stiffens. He topples over like a statue pushed off a pedestal. It is visually hilarious. His legs are straight, his arms pinned to his sides. He hits the ground with a heavy thud. You walk up to him. He is helpless. You can shoot him again. You can wait for him to stand up just to paralyze him again. You are the master of his timeline. However, there is an even darker level to this. There is a singular item in the game, the Jarin root, which you acquire during the Dark Brotherhood questline. There is only 1 sample of it in the entire world, unless you cheat. It is meant to be used in a specific assassination, but if you keep it and mix it with a human heart, you can create a poison that deals thousands of points of damage instantly. It is the God Killer poison. Most players save it forever, too afraid to use it, but just knowing you have it in your pocket gives you a swagger. As you leave the swamp, your boots muddy and your bandolier clinking with vials of green death, you realise that your damage output is getting serious. But it's not broken yet. You are still playing within the rules. You are dealing 50 damage here, 100 damage there. To become a true legend, to become the entity that game masters fear, you need to break the math. You need to combine alchemy not just with archery, but with smithing and enchanting. You need to enter the crafting loop. This is the forbidden knowledge. This is where we stop playing an RPG and start playing a spreadsheet. We're going to forge a bow that doesn't just kill, it deletes. You head to the nearest forge, you have the iron ingots, you have the soul gems, you have the potions. It is time to bend reality. The heat of the forge is different from the heat of battle. It is rhythmic, controlled, and hypnotic. You stand before the anvil in Whiterun, the sky turning a bruised purple as evening sets in. Adriana Avenici is hammering away next to you, oblivious to the fact that you are about to dismantle the mathematical foundations of her world. We've arrived at the crafting loop. To the uninitiated, Skyrim has 3 separate crafting skill trees: smithing, making gear; enchanting, adding magic to gear; and alchemy, making potions. Most players treat these as separate hobbies. They might dabble in 1 or 2. But the stealth archer who seeks to become a deity understands that these 3 skills are not separate lines. They are a triangle, and if you spin that triangle fast enough, you generate a centrifugal force capable of breaking the game engine. This process is often referred to by the community as the loop. It is not a glitch, unless you use the restoration variation, which we will touch on, but rather an exploitation of synergy. Here is how it works. You need to gather supplies. You need grand soul gems, filled with the souls of mammoths you killed with your paralysis poisons. You need ingredients, snowberries, blue butterfly wings, spriggan sap, and you need a set of blank armor, rings, and necklaces. Step 1. You go to the arcane enchanter. You enchant a ring, a necklace, a helmet, and gauntlets with Fortify Alchemy. This makes your potions stronger. Step 2. You put on that gear. You go to the alchemy lab. You brew a potion of Fortify Enchanting. Because of your gear, this potion is stronger than anything you could buy. Step 3. You drink the potion. You have 30 seconds. You rush back to the enchanter. You enchant a new set of gear with Fortify Alchemy. Because you drank the potion, this new gear has higher percentages than the first set. Step 4. You repeat. You put on the new, stronger gear. You brew a new, stronger potion. You drink it. You enchant even stronger gear. Now, in the vanilla game, without the unofficial patch, there is a soft cap where the numbers stop growing significantly due to diminishing returns. But even at that cap, you're looking at gear that boosts your alchemy by massive percentages. Once you've maximized your gear, you perform the final pivot. You don't make a Fortify Enchanting potion, you make a potion of Fortify Smithing. You drink this glowing elixir. You equip a set of gear enchanted with Fortify Smithing. You approach the grindstone. You take your bow, whether it is Daedric, Dragonbone, or even a simple wooden hunting bow for the aesthetic irony. You press Improve. The sound of the stone against the metal screams. The interface updates. Damage 45, 82, 156, 340. You have just forged a weapon that hits with the force of a falling building. There is a core in-game fact that aids this process, hidden at the very top of the world. If you climb the throat of the world, all the way to the peak past where Parthenax meditates, you will find a solitary ebony vein and a unique item stuck in the rock, the notched pickaxe. This is a direct Easter egg referencing Marcus Notch Persson, the creator of Minecraft. But beyond the reference, the pickaxe carries a unique enchantment that boosts your smithing skill. Disenchanting this, or wielding it though it's buggy, adds another layer to your optimization, another variable to squeeze into the equation. But we must address the elephant in the code, the restoration loop. This is the forbidden knowledge. This is the technique that purists despise and chaos lovers adore. It involves a glitch in how the game classifies fortify effects. By drinking a potion of Fortify Restoration, the game inexplicably boosts all your equipped enchantments. If you loop this potion, the numbers don't just climb, they go exponential. You can create a fork that deals 12 million damage. You can create boots that give you so much health, the UI crashes and displays negative numbers, making you instantly die if you take them off because the game thinks you're a lich. We, however, are professionals. We don't need millions of damage. We just need enough to one-shot a legendary dragon on the highest difficulty. The legit crafting loop provides this. With your new bow, let's call it the Silencer, you walk out of Whiterun. You see a mud crab. You draw. The bow feels different. The math behind it has changed. You loose the arrow. The mud crab doesn't just die. It ceases to exist. The health bar disappears before it even turns red. This level of power brings us to a metaphysical concept in Elder Scrolls lore. Chiem. Chiem is a state of being where a mortal realizes they are a figment of a dreaming god's imagination, the Godhead, and by asserting their own individuality, they gain the power to lucid dream. They can reshape reality. Many fans argue that the player using the console commands TGM, TCL, or exploiting these crafting loops is achieving Chime. You have peered behind the curtain of the simulation, seen the variables and rewritten them. You're no longer playing the game, you're editing it. But power demands style. You have the bow of a god, but you still look like a thief. The Thieves Guild armour is practical, yes. The Blackguard armour is efficient, but you are now an apex predator. You need to look like death itself. You need to join the family. The Dark Brotherhood offers the finest aesthetic for the stealth archer. The shrouded armour, tight black and red leather, a cowl that masks your face in shadow. To get it, you must perform the Black Sacrament, or more accurately, you must help a sad boy in Windhelm named Aventus Aretino. You travel to the snowy city of kings and racism. You break into the Aretino residence. You hear the chanting, sweet mother, send your child unto me, for the sins of the unworthy must be baptized in blood and fear." You kill Grelad the Kind. It is barely a fight. She has 1 hit point. You could kill her with a cabbage, but you use your new bow. It is overkill, but it sends a message. Soon after, a courier approaches you. "I've been looking for you. Got something I'm supposed to deliver. Your hands only." He hands you a note, a black handprint, the words, "We know." You sleep. You wake up in a shack. Astrid is sitting on a bookshelf. This is your interview. You pass. You're invited to the sanctuary in the pine forest of Falkreath. You walk up to the black door. "What is the music of life?" the door whispers. "Silence, my brother," you reply. The door melts away. You step into the sanctuary. It smells of incense and dried blood. Astrid gives you the armour. The ancient shrouded cowl, found later on a dead assassin in a ruin during a side quest, is the prize. It grants a massive bonus to bow damage. The standard cowl just boosts generic sneak, but the ancient version is specifically tuned for ballistics. You put it on. You look in the third-person camera. You rotate the view. You are terrifying. You have a bow that hits like a meteorite. You have poisons that freeze time. You have armour that makes you invisible to the ear. You're almost complete. But there is one thing missing. Speed. Your bow is powerful, but draw speed is fixed. Or is it? Deep in the ruins of the Dwemer, the lost race of deep elves, there lies a bow that defies the laws of mechanics. A bow made of Ethereum, or rather a specific Dwemer alloy, that fires faster than any other weapon in the game, the bow of Catria, Zephyr. To find it, you must delve into the earthquake-riddled ruins of Arkenthams. You must navigate the spinning tonal locks. You must listen to the ghost of an adventurer who died trying to reach the summit. The crafting loop gave you raw power. Zephyr will give you machine gun fire rates. You check your map. The Reach is a dangerous place, filled with Forsworn who have uncanny aim. But they have never faced a Dragonborn who has achieved Chim. You step out of the sanctuary, the pine needles crunching softly under your shrouded boots. The hunt for the fastest bow in Skyrim begins. The pine forest of Falkreath is quiet. Not the peaceful quiet of a library, but the predatory quiet of a wolf waiting for the wind to shift. You have entered the sanctuary, whispered the password to the black door, and been welcomed into the loving, dysfunctional arms of the Dark Brotherhood. While the Thieves Guild was about profit, and the College of Winterhold was about hubris, the Brotherhood is about family. Granted, it's a family that worships a desiccated corpse and solves disputes with daggers, but for the lonely stealth archer, it provides a sense of belonging, and more importantly, it provides access to the finest archery gear in the game, if you know how to earn it. Most initiates are content with the standard shrouded armour Astrid hands you upon arrival. It's decent kit. The red and black aesthetic is striking and the stats are respectable. But you're not most initiates. You're a perfectionist. You know that buried deep in the game files and deep in a dungeon called Hag's End lies the ancient shrouded armour. This is the upgrade. The standard cowl grants a 20% bonus to bow damage. The ancient shrouded cowl grants 35%. In the world of damage stacking, that extra 15% is the difference between a clean kill and an awkward conversation with a bandit chief who still has 5% health remaining. But you can't just walk to Hag's End and pick it up. The door is locked, or rather, the specific alcove containing the assassin's corpse requires a key, a literal and metaphorical key tied to your performance. You must first prove your competence to the family. This involves a series of contracts that serve as the Brotherhood's way of saying, "Welcome aboard." You assassinate a beggar, a vampire, a bard. These are warm-ups. The real test comes from Gabriella, the Dunmer assassin who sits in the main chamber, sharpening her blades with a terrifying calmness. She gives you the contract, breaching security. Your target is Gaius Maro, an Imperial security agent touring the major cities. You can kill him anywhere. You could just shoot him in the face in the middle of Solitude, but Gabriella offers a bonus. If you kill him in a major city and plant incriminating evidence on his body, she will give you a token to read your future. This is where the stealth in Stealth Archer is truly tested. You have to stalk Maro. You check his schedule. He travels on specific days, Monday in Dragonbridge, Tuesday in Solitude, etc. You become a shadow on the road. The community loves to debate the correct way to do this. Some prefer to catch him sleeping in the barracks. Others, the sadists, prefer to ambush him on the road, though that forfeits the bonus. The true professional waits for him in Dragonbridge. The layout is simple. The guards are sparse. You find a perch on the cliffs overlooking the bridge. You wait. It is night. The rain is falling. Skyrim's weather engine always seems to know when to set a noir mood. Maro walks out of the Penitus Oculatus outpost. He pauses to look at the river. Thweep. You don't even need the paralysis poison for this one. He drops. You slip down, plant the letter, and vanish before the guards even realise their patrol route is lighter than usual. You return to Gabriella. She is impressed. She hands you Alava's token. This small, unassuming item is your ticket to the endgame gear. You take the token to Whiterun, to the home of Alava the Feeble. She's an old woman sitting on her porch predicting rain and doom. She looks at the token, her eyes clouding over. She gives you a reading, but amidst the cryptic nonsense about snow and blood, she gives you a hard fact. Deepwood Redoubt, the assassin of old, his gear is yours. Now the hunt begins. You travel to Deepwood Redoubt, a massive Nordic ruin complex west of Solitude. This place is a gauntlet. It is filled with Forsworn, the indigenous reachmen who dress in furs and wield dual axes with frightening speed. Combat with Forsworn is tricky for archers because they are erratic. They don't block, they rush, they zigzag, and their own archers have uncannily high damage output. You have to clear the redoubt, moving from cover to cover, picking them off one by one. You emerge into Hag's End. The name is literal. This is where hags go to die, or rather, where they congregate to make your life miserable. The primary antagonist here is a hag raven, a creature that is half woman, half bird, and entirely hateful. She teleports, she shoots fireballs, she is the bane of the stealth player because she constantly spots you with her high perception. You chase her through the ruin. It's a game of cat and mouse, except the mouse shoots fire and the cat is trying to stay invisible. Finally, you reach the summit. You put an arrow through her feathers, ending her screeching permanently. But the real prize is behind the throne, in a hidden niche opened by the lever you couldn't access without the quest flag active. There, slumped against the wall, is the assassin of old. He has been dead for centuries. He's a skeleton wrapped in dark leather. This is a core in-game fact that links you to the lore of the Second Era. This assassin was likely a member of the Crimson Scars, a splinter faction of the Brotherhood referenced in Oblivion lore, or perhaps just a legendary silencer who failed his final mission. You strip the corpse. It's a bit macabre, sure, but you need that cowl. You equip the Ancient Shrouded Armour. The stats wash over you. Ancient Shrouded Cowl. Bows do 35% more damage. Ancient Shrouded Gloves. Double sneak attack damage with one-handed weapons. Useless for bows, but good to have. Ancient Shrouded Boots. Wearer is muffled and moves silently. Ancient Shrouded Armour. 100% poison resistance. That last one, 100% poison resistance, is a quiet game changer. It means you can walk through Chorus Spit and Spider Venom without flinching. It means the Folmer, the arch enemies of the late game, lose half their threat. You stand atop the balcony of Hag's End, the wind whipping your new cowl. You look different now. You aren't just a thief in guild leathers anymore. You are a reaper. This transformation brings up a fan theory that often circulates in the lore threads. Is the Dragonborn the listener because they are special, or because the Night Mother is desperate? The Brotherhood in Skyrim is in shambles. They are abandoning the old ways. Astrid is a leader who breaks the rules. Cicero, the jester who tends to the Night Mother's corpse, is the only one keeping the faith. When you wear the Ancient Shrouded Armour, you are visually aligning yourself with the old ways. You're wearing the skin of the Brotherhood from when they were feared, not just a group of mercenaries living in a cave. You're rejecting Astrid's casual leadership and embracing the ancient cold tradition of Sithis. And speaking of Sithis, the Void seems to be guiding your aim. With the 35% damage boost, your bow is now hitting numbers that shouldn't be possible. If you combine this with the smithing enchanting loop we did earlier, you are entering the realm of integer overflow. But there is a mechanical limitation we still need to address: the speed of the draw. The Daedric bow is powerful, but it is heavy. It draws slowly. The Dragonbone bow, if you have the DLC, is even heavier. In a frantic fight with multiple targets, say a vampire den or a bandit raid, that split-second draw time can mean the difference between getting a shot off and getting staggered. We need a weapon that flows like water. We need Zephyr. We touched on it briefly, but now we must commit. We need to go to the Dwemer ruins. We need to find the bow that belonged to Catria, the ghost who haunts the tonal locks. You check your map. The ruin of Arkenthams is waiting in the reach. It is a place of brass and steam, of spinning gears and ticking clocks. It is the antithesis of the natural pine forest you are standing in, but you must go there. You look at your hands, clad in the red and black of the ancient shrouded gloves. You flex your fingers. They are ready. One last thing before you leave the sanctuary life behind for a bit. You might want to grab the Blade of Woe from Astrid, either by completing the quest line or other means. Even a dedicated archer sometimes needs a knife, and this knife absorbs health. It's good backup, but you won't need a backup where we're going. You're going to get a bow that fires so fast you won't need to aim. You will just paint the room with arrows. The wind howls through the peaks of Hag's End. You take a deep breath. The air is thin and cold. You fast travel. The screen fades to black, the loading smoke twists, and a tip about trolls appears. Trolls are weak to fire. You know, you have a fire enchantment ready. Next stop. The lost technology of the dwarves. The Reach is a landscape of jagged stone and bitter history. As you traverse the craggy peaks south of Markarth, dodging the erratic arrows of the Forsworn, you realise that your heavy, high-damage approach has a flaw. The Daedric bow hits like a truck, but it handles like one too. When you're spotted, and you will be spotted eventually, usually by a Faerma warmonger dropping from a ceiling hole you didn't check, you need something that doesn't require a written application to draw the string. You need fire rate. You need the machine gun of the Second Era. You stand before the entrance to Arkenthams. It doesn't look like a tomb. It looks like a wound in the mountain. The earth here is shaking. Literal tremors rock the screen every few minutes. A scripted reminder that the Dwemer machinery inside is waking up, or perhaps falling apart. You step inside. The air changes instantly from the crisp mountain breeze to the smell of stale oil and ancient brass. The Dwemer ruins are the dungeons that divide the casual players from the lore hunters. They are long, they're confusing, and they're filled with automata that don't bleed, which means your fancy bleed damage perks are useless here. Almost immediately a voice calls out from the gloom. Turn back, before it's too late. You look around. There is no one there. Then you see her. A spectral figure, glowing with the same pale blue light as your bound bow. But this isn't a Daedra. This is Catria. Catria is one of the most tragic figures in Skyrim, and interacting with her triggers the quest lost to the ages. She was an adventurer and scholar who spent her life hunting for the Ethereum Forge, a legendary Dwemer site capable of crafting artifacts of immense power. She found Arkenthams, she solved the initial riddles, and then, in a moment of cruel irony, an earthquake, or perhaps a slip of the boot, sent her plummeting to her death. But the tragedy isn't just her death, it's her legacy. If you dig into her dialogue and the journals scattered around, you uncover a nasty piece of academic drama. Her apprentice, a Dunmer named Taran Dreth, stole her research, published it as his own, and became famous. She died in obscurity, ghosting around a ruin while he got rich. Helping her isn't just about loot, it's about academic tenure from beyond the grave. She warns you about the dangers. You ignore her, of course. You are the Dragonborn. You have the ancient shrouded armour. You have potions that can freeze a mammoth. You tell her you're pressing on. She sighs, draws her own ghostly bow and agrees to help. You fight your way through the ruin. It is infested with Falmer. These blind, corrupted elves are the perfect prey for a stealth archer because they rely on sound. You are muffled. They're clicking and hissing at ghosts. You clear the path, your heavy bow doing the work until you reach a massive cavern. A log extends over a drop that disappears into the darkness, and there, precariously balanced on the edge of the log, is a bow. This is Zephyr. It is Catria's bow, left there when she fell. You walk out onto the log. The screen shakes. It is a tense moment of platforming in a game engine that was absolutely not designed for platforming. You grab the bow, you open your inventory to inspect it. Zephyr. Base damage, 12, same as Dwarven. Weight, 10. Enchantment, fires 30% faster than a standard bow. This is the only bow in the game with the native draw speed enchantment. This isn't a magical effect you can learn and apply to other weapons. It is intrinsic to the geometry of the bow itself. It draws fast, incredibly fast. When you equip it, you feel the difference immediately. With the quick shot perk from the archery tree, which gives another 30% speed, you're now drawing the string almost instantly. The rhythm of combat shifts from draw, hold, loose to thwip, thwip, thwip. You're no longer a sniper, you're an automatic turret. This speed allows for a mechanic known as stagger locking. If you have the power shot perk, 50% of your arrows stagger enemies. With a slow bow, the enemy recovers from the stagger before you can fire again. With Zephyr, you can hit them again while they are still reeling. You can keep a bandit chief dancing in a perpetual state of stun lock until he dies. It is brutal. It is unfair. It is perfect. But acquiring the bow is only half the battle. You and Catria must push forward to the summit of the ruin to find the Ethereum shard. This leads you to the tonal lock. This puzzle is a nightmare for melee characters, but it is a playground for us. There are 5 spinning resonators, kinetic devices on the wall. You have to shoot them in a specific order to unlock the door. If you get it wrong, the ruin unleashes traps. Catria gives you hints. Hit the bottom one first, you draw Zephyr. The resonators are spinning. You have to lead your targets. Clang. The first one spins and locks. Clang. The second. This puzzle feels like it was designed specifically to validate your build choice. A warrior has to run up and bash them, if they can reach. A mage has to aim projectile spells which have travel time. You just point and click. The distinct metallic ring of the arrow hitting the brass resonator is one of the most satisfying sound effects in the game. You solve the lock. The door opens. You grab the shard. Catria looks at you. We did it. She fades away. Her business in this ruin concluded, though she will meet you at the forge later. Now, let's pause for a piece of obscure lore regarding Zephyr. Despite being a dwarven bow found in a Dwemer ruin, Zephyr creates a paradox in the crafting menu. It requires a dwarven metal ingot to upgrade at a grindstone, which makes sense. However, it does not benefit from the dwarven smithing perk for the purpose of doubling the improvement level, unless you have the unofficial patch installed. In the base game, it is treated as a unique object outside the standard material hierarchy. This means that to get it to legendary quality, you need significantly higher smithing skill and better potions than you would for a standard dwarven bow. It makes the weapon harder to perfect, a fitting tribute to its perfectionist owner. With Zephyr in hand, your loadout is becoming versatile. You have the Daedric Chart Dragonbone bow for the opening sneak attack, the one-shot, and you have Zephyr for the oh no moments when stealth breaks and you need DPS, damage per second, to survive a swarm. But there is community debate here. Is Zephyr actually better than a Daedric bow? The math suggests that for unarmoured targets, Zephyr wins on DPS. But against heavily armoured targets, the higher base damage of the Daedric bow punches through better, especially if you don't have armour-piercing perks. However, the feel of Zephyr is unmatched. It makes you feel agile. It encourages a mobile playstyle where you dodge and weave, popping shots off like a Legolas montage. As you exit Arkanthams, leaving Catria's ghost to ponder her vengeance on Taran Dreth. Seriously, hunt him down later. He travels the roads with mercenaries and wears a unique robe. You emerge back into the sunlight of the Reach. You have the speed, you have the stealth, you have the power, but the enemies are getting faster too. Vampires move like mist. Saber cats close the distance in a heartbeat. You need to control the one variable you haven't mastered yet: time. The Dragonborn is not just a warrior, they're a shard of Akatosh, the dragon god of time. It is time to stop reacting to the world's speed and start forcing the world to slow down for you. You need to learn the shout that turns a chaotic battlefield into a frozen tableau of targets waiting to be hit. You need to find the slow time shout. And to do that, we need to join the Mages College, not to learn magic, but to gain access to a specific Nordic ruin that they are excavating. Or we can hunt for the words in the wild. Let's go to Hag's End. Wait, we were just there for the armour. Did you grab the word wall while you were there? Yes, you did. The first word of slow time is in Hag's End, behind the throne where the assassin was. The second word is in Corvinjund, during the Civil War questline. The third is in Labyrinthian, deep in the Mages College quest. We need all three, because with 3 words, you can stop time for 16 seconds. Do you know how many arrows you can fire from Zephyr in 16 seconds? Enough to kill a god. There is a moment in every archer's life when the world moves too fast. A saber cat leaps from a rock ledge covering 20 feet in a heartbeat. A dragon swoops down in a blur of scales and fire, strafing your position before you can even draw your bowstring. The standard laws of physics, velocity, gravity, reaction time, conspire against you. You are immortal. Your fingers can only move so quickly on the controller or mouse. But you're not just immortal, you're Dragonborn, and deep within your skill tree and deeper still within your soul lies the power to tell physics to sit down and wait. We begin with the biological, or rather the physiological mastery of the bow. We are talking about the Steady Hand perk, available at archery level 40, rank 1, and 60, rank 2. This is the moment the game shifts from a shooter to a tactical puzzle. You draw your bow. You press the block button to zoom in. Suddenly the audio warps, the ambient wind drops an octave. The screeches of the Draugr become low, guttural moans. The screen blurs at the edges. Mechanically, the game is slowing time by 25% and then 50%, but notice the cost. Your green stamina bar in the bottom right corner begins to drain. This implies that this isn't magic, it is extreme physical exertion. You're focusing so hard, your heart is pumping so fast that your perception of time accelerates relative to the world. It is an adrenaline dump simulated in code. This allows for the leading shot. You see a bandit running horizontally across your field of view. In real time, hitting him is a guess. You have to predict where he will be. In steady hand time, he is moving through molasses. You can see the individual frames of his running animation. You can place the crosshair 3 inches in front of his nose, release the arrow, and watch it float lazily through the air to intersect with his face. It is geometric satisfaction in its purest form. But 50% is just a taste. The true masters, the ones who want to pluck arrows out of the air, turn to the voice. Tid, Klo, Ul, time, sand, eternity. The slow time shout is the ultimate panic button and the ultimate offensive tool. Unlike unrelenting force, which is loud and chaotic, slow time is elegant. When you shout these words, the world turns grey. The saturation bleeds out of the image. the sounds of battle become a distant underwater murmur. Mechanically, the shout slows down everyone, enemies, falling objects, and projectiles, to a crawl. However, you're only slowed down slightly. This differential is your window of godhood. With all 3 words unlocked, time slows to 10% of its normal speed for 16 seconds. 16 seconds! In the real world, that's nothing. In slow time, it is an epoch. You can fire 3 arrows from Zephyr before an enemy can finish swinging their sword. You can run behind a bandit chief, empty a quiver into his back, and be standing on the other side of the room before he realizes he's dead. This leads to the classic anime death moment where time resumes and the enemy suddenly explodes with 10 arrows simultaneously. Now, let's delve into a fascinating piece of obscure lore regarding this shout. The words time, sand, and eternity suggest a connection to the Psijic Order, the monastic mages who study the old ways of mysticism. In the College of Winterhold questline, the Psijic monks stop time to speak to you. They don't shout, they just do it. This implies that manipulating time is a fundamental aspect of high-level magic in Nirn, but the dragons do it through tonal manipulation. They debate the universe into slowing down. This brings us to a fan theory that has circulated for years, the Akatosh connection. Akatosh is the dragon god of time. The Dragonborn is a shard of Akatosh. Therefore, fans argue that the slow time shout is actually the most lore-accurate shout for the protagonist. While Fusro Da is iconic, Tid Klo Ul is the manifestation of your divine heritage. You aren't just shouting, you are asserting your authority over the domain of your father. You are overruling the linear flow of the calendar. But let's get back to the gameplay, specifically the projectile catching phenomenon. When time is slowed this drastically, arrows fired by enemies hang in the air. If you are fast enough, and if you're running the block runner perk or just moving efficiently, you can physically step out of the way of an arrow that is inches from your eye. Even better, with the deflect arrows perk in the block tree, if you use a shield, which we don't but theoretically, or simply by mashing the interact key, you can snatch the arrow out of the air. It goes into your inventory. Iron arrow added. It is the ultimate flex. You missed, and now, this is my ammo. However, the shout has a long cooldown, 60 seconds for the full 3 words. This leaves you vulnerable. This brings us to the Amulet of Talos debate. The Amulet of Talos reduces shout cooldown by 20%, a nice buff. But the community, in its infinite desire to break the game, found a way to stack this. There is a glitch involving the werewolf transformation. If you give a follower 5 Amulets of Talos transform into a werewolf, and simultaneously talk to the follower to equip the amulets, the game gets confused. It equips all 5. 5 times 20% equals 100%. 100% cooldown reduction. This is the Infinite Time Lord build. You can shout Tid Klo Ul. The duration is 16 seconds. The cooldown is 0 seconds. As soon as the world starts to speed up, you shout again. You can play the entire game in slow motion. You can clear a dungeon before a single drop of blood hits the floor. Is it cheating? Yes. Is it fun? For about 20 minutes. Then it becomes existential horror. You are a lonely god moving through a frozen world. So, let's assume we are playing legitimately. We use the shout tactically. The best use case? The skeletal dragon in Labyrinthian. You're there for the Staff of Magnus, and the third word of the shout. You enter the massive bone-filled room. The skeletal dragon rises. It breathes. Not fire, not frost, but raw magic. No, it's usually frost or fire, but it feels deeper. The room is full of skeletons. It is chaos. You shout, Teed! The skeletons freeze mid-stride. The The dragon's breath hangs in the air like a suspended cloud of glitter. You draw Zephyr. You put 4 arrows into the dragon's ribcage. You move. You put 2 arrows into a skeleton skull. You move. Time resumes. The dragon roars in pain. The skeleton shatters. You are untouched. But there is a subtle interaction here that frustrates many archers. The drag. When you're under the effect of steady hand or slow time, your draw speed is also affected. You move slower. This is why Zephyr is so critical. Its intrinsic speed buff counteracts the sluggishness of the time dilation. A Daedric bow feels like it takes a year to draw in slow motion. Zephyr feels normal. This synergy is why the Zephyr plus slow time combo is the DPS king of the mid to late game. You're now a master of space, stealth, and time shouts. You can kill without being seen, and you can kill faster than the enemy can perceive. But there is a ceiling, a limit to how much physical damage a bow can do. The arrows, they're just pointed sticks. Iron, steel, elven, glass. They're sharp, but they are mundane. What if we could harness the sun? What if we could turn our arrows into beams of light that burn the undead to ash? The Dawnguard DLC introduced a weapon that is not just a bow, but a holy relic. A weapon designed by the Snow Elves to fight the tyranny of the dark. Oriel's bow. To get it, you have to go to the Forgotten Vale, a place that isn't on the map, a place of frozen waterfalls and dragons that dive out of frozen lakes, a place where the sun touches the earth. You need to pack your furs. It's going to be a long, cold trek, and at the end of it, you have to fight one of the last living snow elves, a vampire lord who sits on a throne of ice, waiting for a worthy challenge. You check your inventory, you have your poisons, you have your shout, you have your spectral ghost bow and your dwarven machine bow. It's time to add a god bow to the collection. The map of Skyrim is finite. You can walk from Markarth to Riften in an afternoon if you ignore the wolves and the wandering bards. But beneath the surface and hidden in the folds of reality lie places that feel like different planets. To claim the ultimate weapon of light, we must journey into the dark. We are heading to the Forgotten Vale, a lost sanctuary of the Snow Elves that has been hidden from the world for thousands of years. This journey begins in Darkfall Cave, north of Markarth. And let's be honest, the name is not metaphorical. It is dark. Oppressively, annoyingly dark. It is the kind of darkness that makes you adjust your monitor's gamma settings, only to realize it's still pitch black. You stumble through spider-infested tunnels, guided only by the bioluminescent glow of moss and the terrifying chittering of trolls. But then, you fall. You are swept into a subterranean river, a chaotic water slide sequence that dumps you into a cavern lit by glowing mushrooms and populated by the Chorus hunters, flying insects that look like nightmares with wings. Surviving this drop is a rite of passage. You wash up on the shore, wet, cold, and likely poisoned, only to find him, Knight Paladin Gelebor. He is a snow elf, not a twisted Falmer, but a true, ancient Falmer. He is tall, pale, and radiates a sad dignity. He is the last of his kind, or so he thinks. Standing there in his pristine white armour, he looks like a glitch in the Matrix, a high-resolution asset in a low-resolution cave. He tells you of his brother, Vertha, and the corruption of the Chantry of Oriel. He hands you the initiate's ewer, a fancy water pitcher, and tasks you with a pilgrimage. You must fill it at 5 way shrines scattered across the Forgotten Vale to unlock the inner sanctum. It sounds like a fetch quest. It is a fetch quest. But the environment you're about to enter is arguably the most beautiful zone Bethesda ever designed. You step through the portal and emerge into the Forgotten Vale. It is a hidden valley of glacial ice, waterfalls, and alien flora. The gleam blossoms pulse with light. The sky seems closer here. It is a stealth archer's paradise because the sight lines are infinite. You can spot a Falmer walking on a ridge 3 miles away, but this paradise has guardians. As you cross the massive frozen lake in the centre of the vale, the ice cracks. 2 dragons, Nastlarum and Vostlarum, burst from the water simultaneously. It is a scripted moment that still induces panic in veteran players. Fighting dragons on ice is tricky. There is no cover. You are exposed. This is where your Zephyr bow and slow time shout synergy shines. You slide across the ice, dodging breath attacks, weaving between the 2 beasts. You are a dancer on a frozen stage. You aim for the wings to ground them, then the heads to finish them. As you collect their souls and loot their bones, save those bones, we need them for Section 14. You proceed to the Way Shrines. The journey is long. You fight through Falmer villages built into the cliffs. These aren't the crude huts of the mainland. These are elaborate chitinous structures. You're invading their last true home. This brings up a heavy bit of lore, the betrayal. The snow elves didn't just devolve, they were blinded and enslaved by the Dwemer, dwarves, in exchange for sanctuary from the Nords. The Falmer you fight are the result of centuries of toxic fungi and slavery. Every arrow you put into a Falmer is a mercy kill, ending a tragic lineage of suffering. Gelibor knows this. He asks you to kill them not out of hate, but out of pity. Finally, you fill the ewer. You reach the inner sanctum. You pour the water into the basin. The massive doors unlock. Inside, you find the frozen statues of the snow elves who died when the chantry fell. They are perfectly preserved in ice, holding items of worship. Some of them wake up. It's a jump scare that teaches you to trust nothing in this place. You fight your way to the balcony, and there, sitting on a throne overlooking the entire valley, is Arch-Curate Verther. He's not happy to see you. He's not happy to see Gelibor. He begins to monologue, and here is the twist, the obscure lore tidbit that reframes the entire DLC. Verther is a vampire. He was infected by an initiate centuries ago. Because Auriel, the elven version of Akatosh, turned his back on him, allowing the infection to take hold, Verther went insane. He created the tyranny of the sun prophecy, the very prophecy Harkon is trying to fulfill, just to spite his god. He wants to black out the sun to hurt the deity that abandoned him. It's a cosmic tantrum. But you don't care about his daddy issues. You care about the bow on his back. The fight begins. Verther summons ancient frost Atronachs. He collapses the ceiling. He runs around the balcony. This is a cliff fight. The edges of the balcony are open. Now the honourable duel involves dodging his magic and shooting him. The stealth archer way. Unrelenting force. You shout, Fusro Da! Verther flies backward. He sails over the railing. He plummets hundreds of feet to the frozen rocks below. The quest updates. Defeat Verther. Completed. It is anticlimactic, hilarious, and efficient. You have to walk all the way down to loot him, but the satisfaction of yeeting a boss off a cliff is unmatched. You retrieve Auriel's bow. This is it, the weapon of a god. Base damage, 13, equal to Elven. Wait, 13? That seems low, but check the enchantments, 20 points of sun damage, triples to 60 points against undead. Draw speed is exceptionally fast, similar to Zephyr. Against a Draugr Deathlord or a vampire, this bow hits with the force of a nuclear bomb. The sun damage bypasses armour. It sets them on fire with holy light. But the real gimmick lies in the arrows. Gelibor gives you sun-hallowed elven arrows. When you shoot these arrows at the sun, Yes, literally aim at the sun and fire. The bow channels the solar energy. The sun flares. Beams of light rain down from the sky, striking every enemy in the area. It is an airstrike. You're calling in orbital bombardment from a fantasy satellite. Alternatively, if you sided with the vampires, or if you ask Serana nicely to bleed on some arrows, you get blood-cursed elven arrows. Shoot the sun with these and the sun turns black. A red eclipse swallows the sky. Day becomes night. Vampires no longer take sun damage. For a vampire stealth archer, this is the ultimate utility. You can walk in daylight without penalties. The world is yours. However, there is a community debate about the practicality of the eclipse. Sure, it looks cool, but in the dark the town guards invoke their vampire attack protocols. Shops might close, NPCs might run away, it disrupts the economy. Most players use it once for the screenshot and then stick to the sun-hallowed arrows for the damage explosions. You stand on the balcony holding the white, elegant curve of Oriel's bow. You look out over the forgotten vale. The sun is setting, painting the ice in shades of violet and gold. You have the speed of Zephyr. You have the holy fire of Oriel. You have the crafting loop damage of your Daedric Dragonbone bow. But as you look at your quiver, you realize a problem. Sun-hallowed arrows are finite. You have to ask Gelabor to bless them in batches of 20. It's tedious. You need a standard munition, a projectile that you can craft in the thousands, which hits harder than Daedric, and which pierces dragon scales like paper. You need to become an apex predator. You need to stop relying on elven magic and start relying on the bones of the beasts you have slain. It is time to return to the forge and master the final tier of smithing. It is time to craft dragonbone arrows. You fast travel back to Whiterun. The guards comment on your armour. "Hail Sithis," one whispers. Another says, "Is that fur coming out of your ears?" If you're a werewolf. You ignore them. You head to the Skyforge. The fire is hot. The bones are heavy. The heat of the Skyforge is different from the heat of a normal blacksmith's fire. It burns with a blue spiritual intensity, fed by the souls of ancient heroes, or at least that's what Yorlan Greymane would have you believe. Standing here, high above Whiterun, looking down on the Cloud District. Yes, Nazim, we get there very often. You're ready to engage in the final tier of industrial warfare. We have toyed with glass, we have dabbled in ebony, and we have summoned Daedra. But now we turn to the remains of our enemies. We're going to craft dragonbone arrows. To the uninitiated, an arrow is just a delivery system for the bow's damage. They assume the difference between an iron arrow, 8 damage, and a Daedric arrow, 24 damage, is negligible once your bow is dealing 300 damage. But the true stealth archer knows that math is a game of inches. Dragonbone arrows boast a base damage of 25. They are the heaviest, sharpest, and most brutal projectiles in the game. But crafting them requires a sacrifice. You need dragon bones. Early in the game, dragon bones were a burden. They weigh 15 units each. You killed Mamulnir at the watchtower, looted his bones, and immediately became over-encumbered. You probably sold them to Belethor for a pittance just to be able to fast travel. Now, you regret that. Because one dragon bone, combined with firewood, yields 24 arrows, you stand at the anvil. You feed the bones into the process. The sound of crafting dragonbone gear is heavy, a deep thud clank that implies you're working with material denser than steel. You craft 100, 200, 500. You are converting the physical remains of the Dover into a stockpile of death. There is a fascinating bit of obscure mechanics here regarding ballistics. The physics engine in Skyrim assigns weight to projectiles. Elven arrows are light, They fly fast and flat. You can aim directly at a target's head from 100 yards away, and the arrow will barely drop. Dragonbone arrows are heavy. They have a steeper trajectory. At long range, they drop like a stone. This forces you to relearn your aim. You have to arc your shots. You have to aim above the target's head, lobbing the arrow like an artillery shell. When it connects, though, the impact is visceral. The sound design for Dragonbone impact is a wet, heavy crunch. It doesn't just pierce, it shatters. But a heavy arrow needs a heavy payload. Physical damage is great, but we want elemental supremacy. We want to hit the enemy with fire, frost and shock simultaneously. We need the chaos damage enchantment. To get this, we have to take a brief detour back to Solstheim. We need to find General Falx Carius at Fort Frostmoth. He wields the Champion's Cudgel, a unique warhammer that has a 50% chance to deal 25 points of fire, frost and shock damage. Note the and, it's not or. If the RNG, random number generation gods, smile upon you, all three elements trigger at once. That is 75 points of extra magic damage, on top of the weapon damage. You kill the general, you take his hammer, you bring it to an arcane enchanter, and with a heavy heart you destroy it. You strip the chaos damage enchantment from the unique item so you can learn it. This is a one-way trip. The hammer is gone forever, but the knowledge is yours. Now you take a Dragonbone bow, crafted with the same bones, improved to legendary quality with your smithing gear, and you apply the enchantment. But you don't stop there. If you have the extra effect perk, Enchanting level 100, you can add a second enchantment. What do you pair with Chaos? Some say Paralyze. But we have poisons for that. Some say Fiery Soul Trap. Practical, but we have the Bound Bow for farming souls. The true min-maxer chooses Absorb Health. Why? Because chaos damage is bugged in the most delightful way. The magnitudes of the elemental damages are affected by the destructive perks associated with them, Augmented Flames, Frost, Shock. But because Absorb Health is technically a destruction effect in the code, boosting the Chaos enchantment often inadvertently boosts the Absorb Health magnitude as well. You end up with a bow that hits for 300 physical, 100 plus elemental, and heals you for 50 points per shot. You become immortal. Now equipped with the Dragonbone bow, Chaos Absorb, and 500 Dragonbone arrows, you need a target worthy of this loadout. You're too strong for bandits. Giants are a joke. You need to hunt a legendary dragon. These behemoths only start spawning when you reach level 78. They have massive health pools, armor ratings that shrug off lesser weapons, and a breath attack that drains vitality. They are the game's way of saying, okay, you're strong, but are you this strong? You fast travel to Arcwind Point. It's a reliable spawn location. You climb the snowy ridge. The wind howls. You hear the roar before you see the wings. The legendary dragon is distinct. It has curved horns and eyes that look like molten abysses. It spots you. It dives. In the old days you would have hidden. You would have chugged potions. Now, you stand your ground. You draw the Dragonbone bow. The heavy wood creaks. You activate slow time. Tid Cloul. The dragon hangs in the air, jaws open, fire beginning to form in its throat. You aim. You have to account for the drop of the heavy arrow. You aim slightly above its snout. Thwip, thwip, thwip. 3 arrows are in the air before the first one connects. Time resumes. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The Chaos enchantment triggers. A burst of fire, a crack of lightning, a shatter of frost. The dragon's health bar doesn't chip away, it evaporates. It crashes into the snow, sliding to a halt at your feet. You didn't even lose a point of health. This moment brings up a community debate about the armor cap versus damage cap. In Skyrim, armor rating caps at 567, giving 80% physical damage reduction. You can have an armor rating of 2000, but it does the exact same thing as 567. However, there is no damage cap. You can keep stacking percentages until the integer overflows. This leads to the philosophical question: is the game still fun when you are One Punch Man? Some players say no. They intentionally use weaker gear to keep the challenge alive. But the stealth archer, we don't play for challenge. We play for control. We play for the satisfaction of knowing that if we wanted to, we could delete the sun. As you loot the legendary dragon, taking its bones to replace the arrows you just fired, the circle of life continues. You realise something. You have done it all. You have the blood of the Bosmer or Khajiit. You have the gear of the Guild and the Brotherhood. You have the magic of the Snow Elves and the Dwemer. You have the ballistics of the dragons themselves. You are the apex predator. The wolves run from you. The bandits see you and say, nope, and walk the other way. If the AI were smarter, they would. But there is one final test, one final loose end. A courier approaches you in a city. He is out of breath. He's wearing a tunic, looking woefully underdressed for the weather. Got a message for you from a warrior. Says he's been looking for a challenge, the Ebony Warrior. He waits for you at the last vigil, a camp high in the Velothi Mountains. He is the developer's final boss. He is level 80. He has perks you can't get. He can shout. He reflects damage. He is the mirror image of your power. Most players fight him with swords in a glorious duel. But we're going to show him the true meaning of stealth. We're going to show him that honour is just a word for people who didn't bring enough arrows. You check your quiver, you check your poisons, you adjust your cowl. It is time to retire the legend. It is time for the final shot. The air at the summit of the Velothi Mountains is thin enough to suffocate a lesser hero. You're climbing to the last vigil, a camp so remote that even the map markers seem hesitant to place it. You are level 80. You've killed Alduin, Harkon and Mirak. You have become the Guildmaster, the Listener, the Archmage and the Harbinger. You've shouted at dragons until they fell out of the sky, and you've crafted armour that violates the laws of thermodynamics, but the game has one last card to play. One final checkmate for the entity you have become. A few days ago, in the bustling streets of Whiterun, a challenger approached you. He was clad in armour as black as pitch, an imposing silhouette against the cobblestones. He didn't attack. He simply spoke. "I have done all that can be done," he said, his voice deep and weary, mirroring your own journey. "There is nothing left. No quest to be undertaken, no villains to be slain, but there is one challenge left. You. This is the Ebony Warrior. He is the developer's final love letter to the power gamer. He is the only NPC in the game who perks into the same trees you do. He has 100 in enchanting, he has 100 in smithing, he can shout Fusroda, he can paralyze you, and he has 50% magic resistance. He is effectively a mirror match. You reach the camp, it is humble, a tent, a fire, and him. He stands near the edge of the cliff, looking out over the Morrowind border. He is waiting. He wants a warrior's death. He wants you to send him to Sovngarde. Now, here is the core in-game fact that terrifies the stealth archer. The Ebony Warrior has a perk called Reflect Blows. This heavy armour perk grants a 10% chance to reflect melee damage back at the attacker, but through a quirk of his unique NPC design and high-level scaling, this reflection mechanic can sometimes interact weirdly with massive burst damage. If you hit him with a god bow shot that deals 5,000 damage and that 10% chance triggers, you don't kill him. You kill yourself. Instantly. The game calculates the reflected damage, applies it to your health pool and your character ragdolls before the arrow even lands. It is the ultimate irony. Your quest for infinite damage has created the only weapon capable of destroying you. So, you don't rush. You crouch behind a rock formation. The snow whips around you, masking your silhouette. You check your gear. You swap your god bow for Zephyr or a standard dragonbone bow. You need controlled damage, not a nuclear strike. You check your active effects. You drink a potion of fortify health, just in case. You poison your arrow. Not with paralysis. He is immune to paralysis 90% of the time due to his level and gear. You use a specialized poison. Damage health. Lingering damage health. You need to rot him. You aim. The crosshair settles on the gap in his helmet. The hidden eye is closed. Thwip. The arrow connects. The sound of metal on metal rings out across the valley. The Ebony Warrior doesn't stagger. He turns. He shouts, Fusro Da. The force wave hits your rock. You're knocked back. The hidden eye flies open. He spots you. This is it. The stealth is broken. Now, it is a duel. He charges, drawing an ebony sword of the vampire. He closes the distance with terrifying speed. You switch to slow time. Tid Klo Ul. The world turns grey. He freezes in mid-sprint, his cape suspended in the air. You backpedal. You fire Zephyr. Thwip. The arrows spark against his armor. His health bar, massive, intimidating, starts to chip away, but he is healing. He has potions too, and he uses close wounds. You realize that this isn't just a DPS race, it's an endurance test. You have to out-resource him. You switch back to your dragonbone bow. You load a sun-hallowed arrow. You aim at his feet to trigger the splash damage, hoping to bypass his reflection chance. Explosions of light rock the cliffside. He staggers. Lore-wise, this encounter is a fascinating anomaly. When you loot his helmet later, you discover he is a Redguard. This is a massive contradiction. Redguards don't go to Sovngarde, they go to the far shores. Sovngarde is the Nord afterlife. Why is a Redguard champion obsessed with a Nordic death? Fan theories abound. Is he an avatar of Raymond Ebenarm, the Redguard god of war manifesting to test the Dragonborn? Or is he the player character from a previous Elder Scrolls game lost in time? But the most poignant theory is that he is simply you. He represents the player who has played the game for 500 hours, who has done everything, and who just wants it to end. He wants release from the simulation. He wants the save file to close. The fight drags on. You kite him around the campfire. You summon your Dremora Lord just to distract him. "I smell weakness," the Dremora screams, before immediately getting decapitated by the Ebony Warrior. He is relentless. He uses Command Dragon. No, thankfully there are no dragons here, but he uses Unrelenting Force again. You tumble near the edge. You stand up. Your health is low. You eat 20 cheese wheels in a single frame of animation, the pause menu feast. You draw your bow one last time. You hold the breath. Steady Hand activates. He's winding up for a power attack. His chest is exposed. You release. The arrow takes him in the throat. He drops to one knee, then the other. "At last," he whispers. "Sovngarde." He collapses. His soul doesn't enter you. There is no dragon absorption. He was just a man who mastered the world and found it empty. You walk over to his body. You loot him. His armor is powerful, but you don't need it. You have better. You take his sword as a trophy. You stand on the edge of the last vigil. The wind is the only sound. You open your map. Cleared, cleared, cleared. The markers are all filled. The quest log is empty. save for the radiant, procedurally generated infinite quests that never end. Kill the bandit leader, collect the book. You don't want to do those. You are done. This is the end of the stealth archer's journey. You started in a cart, bound and helpless. You scavenged a longbow from a torture room. You learned to crouch. You learned to exploit the economy with Faendal. You bent the stars with the Atronach Stone. You broke the math with Alchemy. You stopped time with shouts. You harnessed the sun with Oriel. And finally you defeated the only other being in the world who understood power. You don't fast travel away. You walk. You walk down the mountain, past the steam vents of Eastmarch, through the golden woods of the Rift. You head to your home, maybe Lakeview Manor, nestled in the pine woods. You walk inside. Your spouse is there. Your adopted children are playing with a wooden sword. "You're back," they say. "Did you bring me anything?" You give them a sweet roll. You walk to the armory in the cellar. You take the dragonbone bow off your back. You place it on the weapon rack. You take off the ancient shrouded cowl. You place it on the mannequin. You're wearing simple clothes now, a tunic, boots. You sit in the chair by the fire. You're no longer the shadow. You're no longer the death that walks. You're just a Nord, or Khajiit, or Bosmer, sitting by a fire. The eye on the screen is gone. The crosshair is gone. You are hidden, truly hidden. Not from enemies, but from the need to fight. You've achieved the ultimate stealth. You have disappeared from the narrative, and so the bow is unstrung. The tension that has held the string tight for so many miles is finally released, the wood settling back into its natural resting curve. The arrows are returned to the quiver, fletching smooth down, points dulling slightly in the safety of the dark. The fire in the hearth at Lakeview Manor crackles, a soft, orange heartbeat that pushes back the shadows, not to hide you, but to warm you. Take a deep breath now. Let it out slowly, like you're exhaling the frost of the forgotten vale, letting the warmth of the fire seep into your bones. The map is folded away, the markers have faded, the compass at the top of your vision has dissolved into the blackness behind your eyelids. There are no more red dots to track, no more footsteps to listen for. The Draugr are sleeping in their tombs, and for once you're going to let them sleep. The only sound now is the wind outside, muffled by thick stone walls, and the gentle hum of the fan you turned on earlier. It's a white noise like the waterfalls of the ancestor glade washing over you, smoothing out the jagged edges of the day. You are safe here. You are hidden here. The world is vast and dangerous, but you have conquered it, and now you have earned this rest. The screen fades to black. The music swells, that soft ambient string melody of the night tracks, and then drifts away into silence. End of script. Sweet dreams.